All the time, we hear about the NBA's biggest stars, guys who not only captivate the audience with their talent or flashy play, but also their ludicrous box score numbers. However, in this video, let's talk about the opposite. Players who provide the intangibles, the things that don't show up in the box score, yet they're just as valuable to their team's success. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and without further ado, here are 6 of the NBA's most intangible players. Josh Hart. If you ask someone to define what a winning basketball player looks like, Josh Hart should be the first to come to mind. Everything he does on the court, every action, every motion, he just does everything the team needs to win. Among all Knicks players, he leads the team in deflections per game, and he's third on the team in offensive rebounding. Despite being just 6'5", he averaged more offensive boards than Julius Randle. A few months ago, I made a video talking about the Knicks' acquisition of Josh Hart at the deadline. I knew it was a good deal, but I wasn't super impressed at first, and I wish the Knicks could have done more. But now, I get it. I love Josh Hart. Immediately after the trade, the team went on a 9-game winning streak, and there's a reason they had the NBA's second-best record after the deadline. Hart fills in all the gaps this team needed, a guy who can reliably defend at the wings, who can create plays off the dribble when their stars are struggling, who calls out rotations and relentlessly hustles in every single play. Hart does all of this while being hyper-efficient at scoring. Since coming to the Knicks, he's had a whopping 70% true shooting percentage. Very rarely do you see Hart make a bad play or a bad decision, and I can't say the same for some other players on this team. Dorian Finney-Smith. It's been a hit or miss with DFS since getting traded to the Nets. However, for most of his career, he's been one of the most underrated players in this league. I'm sure Dallas fans love him, but outside of that, he never gets much recognition for what he does. For 6.5 years in Dallas, DFS was almost always their lone wing player who wasn't a traffic cone on defense. He would routinely guard the opposing team's best players and, over the years, developed into a competent three-point shooter. From 2020 until 2023 in Dallas, DFS held opponents to just 37% shooting between 15 and 19 feet, and just 34% from three-point land, whenever he was the primary defender. Out of all qualifying players on the Mavs, that was the lowest percentage, and among all qualifying players across the NBA, DFS held his opponent to the 12th lowest and 14th lowest from those two areas respectively. You could say he's a top 10 to top 15 perimeter defender in the league just by looking at these numbers. Additionally, he's quite the versatile player too. Being 6'7", 220, he's an integral part of any small ball lineup, even slotting in at power forward whenever his team goes small. Similar to Josh Hart, Dorian seemingly has limitless energy, but he knows his limits. He never tries to do too much and always makes the right play. Even if his three-point shot isn't falling, he provides value to his team in every other area. The loss of DFS was quite visible when you watch the Mavs after his departure. They just have no defense on the wings anymore. Random players are just blowing by the Mavs defense and getting into the paint with ease. They went from an average defensive team to 24th after the deadline. Brook Lopez. It's been a renaissance year for Brook Lopez. He was even in the Defensive Player of the Year discussion, which if you told me 10 years ago that Brook Lopez was one of the league's best defenders, I'd call you crazy. Back then, when he was a youngster, he was well known to be one of the league's worst defenders. What a turnaround. His impact can be measured in his net rating. In the 2,373 regular season minutes Brook played, his team had a defensive rating of 109.0. In the 1,593 minutes he wasn't on the court, the Bucks' defensive rating was only 117.1. For comparison, the Indiana Pacers this season had a defensive rating of 117.7, and they were the 5th worst defensive team in the league. Basically, when Brook Lopez is not on the court, the Bucks literally have a bottom 5 defense in the NBA. That's how much he changes the game. Lopez has the best defensive differential on the team and the second best overall net rating behind Giannis. Over the years, he's developed into the ideal 3-and-D center. Even though Lopez has recorded better numbers and better stat lines in the past, don't let that fool you. This season is the best he's ever had. At the age of 35, no less, this is the most complete version of him we've ever seen. Steven Adams. Remember this interview from Jimmy Butler back in 2018? Here, I'll show you.
I'm serious. He hit me with one screen today, and I thought my life was over. Like, seriously. I don't know. He's like from Krypton or something, seriously. He's strong. Like, dude, I'm trying to tell you.
This was a very common thing back in the day. Steven Adams was known for his ridiculously hard-setting screens. He was widely considered to be the best screen setter in the entire league, and as he got older, that has not changed. It's backed up by the numbers too. In the 2022-23 season, Steven Adams led the NBA in screen assists per game with 5.6, and second in screen assist points per game with 12.6. Adams managed to do this while playing just 27 minutes a game, which is crazy. And it shows how much the Grizzlies rely on him to set strong screens to get their guards open looks. You would never think to call Adams a playmaker or someone who runs the Grizzlies' offense, but he's basically the most crucial piece in every play they run. His own teammates have mentioned multiple times how he's by far the best screen setter they've ever played with. The Grizzlies are just a completely different team when Adams is not playing. Additionally, he's always been a very dominant rebounder, but you probably wouldn't have known that if you just looked at his rebounding numbers. Back in OKC, he never averaged double digits in rebounds, though I feel like that's mostly because he'd box out for Westbrook to let his teammates get them. However, it's his offensive rebounding that changes the game. For his career, he nearly averages as many offensive boards as defensive boards. And on the Grizzlies, he's cracked double digits in rebounds for the first time, and he's grabbing around 5 offensive boards a game. In the 2022-23 season, he had an offensive rebound rate of 20.1%, meaning when he's on the floor, he's grabbing an offensive rebound on 1/5 of his team's possessions, which is, that's freaking insane. I'm honestly willing to go as far as to say Adams is the best rebounder in the league, even if he's never led the league in rebounds. Jared Vanderbilt. A low-key acquisition for the Lakers at the trade deadline was Jared Vanderbilt. People were wondering how D'Angelo Russell would fit in with the Lakers again, and how he could play off the ball with LeBron and all that stuff, but Vanderbilt's arrival was just as important, but it was swept under the rug. He's arguably the most versatile defender in the league now, but back in Minnesota, people didn't get to watch him that much, and his efforts were kinda wasted for years playing for a bad team. On the Lakers though, under the spotlight, everyone knows who he is now. He's exactly what they were missing, a tough, energetic, defensive-minded player who can guard every position, to take the burden off of Davis and LeBron so they can focus on offense. This article from The Athletic describes him perfectly. Quote, "He plays with an uncommon relentlessness, crashing the offensive glass, tipping passes and dribbles, pressuring ball handlers, navigating screens, switching and rotating at the precise moment, not a beat too early or late. The few mistakes he makes are aggressive ones coaches can live with." Darvin Ham started calling him Energizer Bunny, and his teammates have stated he's Rodman-esque. Vando has been a major force in the Lakers' turnaround post-deadline, and when asked by a reporter on his thought process when defending opposing superstars, he stated, "There's a lot that goes into it. It's energy, but it's being smart with it too. Like, I know who I can pick up, I know when to back up. I know, just reading the scouting report, when I can shoot the gaps and try to go for a steal, going certain directions on whoever the player is, so it's a lot of film and studying that goes into it as well." He's a very intelligent player and has the type of winning mentality this Lakers team desperately needs. Marcus Smart. If someone took one glance at Marcus' box score stats or his career numbers, you'd think he was a below-average point guard. Heck, even when he won Defensive Player of the Year, he got criticized. There were plenty of vocal critics who didn't think he deserved it. What they don't know is that there's so much to his game that you would miss if you didn't pay attention. Not only is Smart their best perimeter defender, but also their leader on defense. He's the guy who calls out the rotations, who tells his teammates where to go, what plays the opponent is running, when to switch, when not to switch, everything. You add on the tremendous effort and hustle he brings in, night out, it's easy to understand why he's been in Boston for his entire career, and why he's never been traded. He's been in trade rumors occasionally, but for the most part, the Celtics know what he brings. There's a reason he's the longest tenured player on this team, and despite all the roster iterations the team has been through, Smart has remained. Jaylen Brown once said, Quote, he brings pace to the game. He gets us easier shots, easier looks for our guys, and defensively, he adds that tenaciousness that gets us going. Picks us up in some games like this that kind of helps us get over the hump and get wins. Also, something has to be said for the fact that Smart has played with the Celtics' young core for their entire careers. You can't develop that chemistry overnight. He knows his teammates inside and out, where their sweet spots are, where they want to catch the ball and shoot. And through years of playing together, he knows their habits as well as they know themselves. That's what makes Smart irreplaceable, even if sometimes he's a complete headache to watch. Anyway, that's all, folks. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.